My husband faked his entire identity before marrying me. When I found out his secret, I realized I never truly knew the man sleeping next to me. I always thought my marriage was perfect. My husband, Ethan, was charming, kind, and the kind of man who made me feel like the luckiest woman alive. We had been together for 5 years, married for 3, and through it all, I never had a reason to doubt him. Or at least, I thought I didn't. The first red flag should have been how little I knew about his past. Whenever I asked about his childhood, his family, or his life before we met, he would brush it off with vague answers. He told me his parents had passed away, that he didn't keep in touch with extended relatives, that he had moved around a lot as a kid. I figured he was just private about his past, maybe even a little ashamed of it. But then, one evening, everything changed. It started when I needed a copy of his birth certificate for some paperwork. He wasn't home, so I went looking through our file cabinet. I knew he kept important documents in a locked drawer, and since we never kept secrets, I used the spare key he once gave me. But when I opened it, I found something that made my stomach drop. Multiple passports, different names, different birthdays. I felt the blood drain from my face. This had to be a mistake. Maybe they were old documents. Maybe he had changed his name legally and just never mentioned it. But then I saw an ID with a photo of him, except the name wasn't Ethan. And it wasn't the only one. I dug further and found old credit cards, rental agreements, even a marriage certificate with another woman's name on it. My hands shook as I took photos of everything. Who the hell had I married? When he came home that night, I confronted him, expecting denial, excuses, anything. But instead, his face went completely blank. No shock, no anger, just calculated silence. And that's when I realized Ethan wasn't just hiding something. My entire marriage had been a lie. I demanded answers, my voice shaking, my heart racing. He exhaled, sitting down like the weight of my discovery had finally caught up to him. Then, in the calmest voice imaginable, he said, "I was going to tell you. One day." I felt sick. One day? How long had he planned on keeping this from me? Who even was he? He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Please," he whispered. "Let me explain." And so, I let him talk. He told me his real name wasn't Ethan, that he had lived under multiple aliases for years, moving from one place to another, creating new lives, leaving them behind when necessary. That the other marriage, the IDs, the different names, they were all part of a past he had hoped to leave behind. "I never wanted to lie to you," he said, "but I had to." I wanted to scream. Had to? Why? "Who are you running from?" I demanded. That's when his expression changed. Fear crept into his eyes, the kind of fear that wasn't just guilt. It was something deeper, something real. "It's not about who I'm running from," he said, voice low. "It's about who's looking for me." A chill ran down my spine. What had I gotten myself into? I spent the next few days in a daze, torn between running as far away from him as possible or staying to get the full truth. But the truth came to me first. A letter appeared in our mailbox. No return address. Just my name, written in block letters. Inside, there was a single note. "You don't know who your husband really is, but we do." I dropped the letter as if it had burned me. My entire body trembled. Ethan found me moments later, my face pale, my breath coming in short gasps. He saw the letter on the floor and his entire body went rigid. "We need to go, now." His voice was sharp, urgent, like he had been expecting this. I backed away. "You knew this was coming. Who are they?" He didn't answer right away. He only grabbed a bag from the closet, stuffing it with clothes, cash, a lot of cash. "Ethan," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Who the hell are you?" His jaw clenched. Then, finally, he looked me in the eyes and said the words that shattered everything I had left to hold on to. "I used to work for people who don't forgive mistakes, and I made one. A big one." My head spun. "What does that mean?" I whispered. He exhaled, rubbing a hand down his face. "It means," he said, that if we stay here, we're both dead by morning. The next hours were a blur. We ran, left our home behind, abandoned our lives overnight. I should have been afraid of him, of the secrets he kept, of the life he built on lies. But in that moment, as we drove away, headlights in the distance growing closer, I realized something even worse. I wasn't afraid of Ethan. I was afraid of who was coming for him. And now, for me too. That moment, the one when I discovered that the man I married wasn't who I thought he was, still echoes in my mind. As Ethan, no, not even Ethan as I'd known him, calmly explained his web of lies, I felt a part of me shatter. His carefully hidden secrets, multiple passports, conflicting IDs, and documents bearing different names and birthdays, lay bare the truth. My entire marriage had been built on deceit. Then came the letter. A plain envelope with no return address, addressed in bold block letters to me. Inside, a single note read, "You don't know who your husband really is, but we do." The words burned into my memory. Before I could fully process what was happening, Ethan returned home. I confronted him, expecting frantic denials or desperate excuses. Instead, his expression was unnervingly blank, calm, almost resigned. When I demanded answers, his voice dropped to a whisper. "I was going to tell you. One day." One day? How long was he planning to keep this hidden? As I watched him reach for my hand in a futile attempt at reassurance, I recoiled, realizing that the man sleeping next to me was not the man I thought I knew. Panicked questions exploded in my mind. Who is he really? And who is coming for him? Moments later, a chilling truth settled in. His past was catching up with him. I spent the next few days in a haze, torn between fleeing from the mounting danger and demanding the full truth. Then, without warning, another letter appeared in our mailbox, threatening and ominous. It was time to run. Under a cold, relentless rain, we sped through desolate streets, the city lights a blur against the downpour. Every drop of rain seemed to wash away remnants of the life I had once known. Ethan's eyes were fixed on the dark road ahead, his grip on the steering wheel tight, as if he could hold back the storm of his past. "I've always been running," he admitted in a low, pained tone. But I never imagined that what I was escaping would catch up to me. And now, to us. Inside the car, silence reigned. A thick, suffocating silence filled only by the sound of rain tapping the windows. I sat in the passenger seat, struggling to process the cascade of revelations. My mind reeled. I had married a man who had reinvented himself so many times that I no longer knew his true face. And now someone was after him. Someone who would stop at nothing to find him. At a deserted gas station on the outskirts of the city, we made a brief stop. Ethan used those moments to check his phone and read the latest messages, while I tried to steady my trembling hands. The note we'd received confirmed that our worst fears were not unfounded. With urgency in his eyes, Ethan murmured, "We need to get to a safe place. I have a contact, a place I used to hide, but I can't say much more right now." The thought of fleeing with a man who was a stranger to me terrified me, yet a part of me felt relieved. At least now, the truth was out. I no longer had to live in the shadow of his countless lies. Even if it meant running into an uncertain future, I was done with deception. After we resumed our drive, the city's neon glow melted into the dark rural landscape. My mind raced with questions. Who was chasing him? Why had he built such a maze of false identities? And, most haunting of all, what would become of me in the wake of his unraveling past? The car's radio crackled to life with a breaking news bulletin. Authorities intensify their search for individuals linked to an international fraud ring. Suspects are believed to have used forged documents and false identities for decades. Hearing those words sent a shiver down my spine. Ethan's voice was barely audible as he said, "They're getting closer." His eyes, usually so confident, now betrayed a raw fear that I had never seen before. With no time to lose, he steered the car off the main road, towards a narrow, winding path leading to an abandoned warehouse, a place he claimed would serve as our temporary refuge. As we navigated the labyrinthine backroads, the reality of our situation sank in. I had married a man whose past was a ticking time bomb, and now that bomb was about to go off in our lives. We eventually pulled up in front of a dilapidated warehouse, its silhouette looming like a specter in the rain. Inside, the air was thick with dust and memories of better days. Amidst discarded crates and broken furniture, Ethan and I found a secluded corner to hide and plan our next move. With his back against a cold metal wall, he turned to me, eyes searching mine for understanding. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said, voice cracking with remorse and urgency. "I built these false lives to escape a past I can't outrun, a past that now threatens us both. I thought I could protect you by keeping it a secret, but now, I see I only doomed us to this fate." I stared at him, my heart pounding with a mixture of anger, fear, and something like pity. "Why did you never tell me?" I demanded, voice trembling. "I deserved to know who I married." He sighed heavily. "Every lie was meant to shield you, from the danger, from the truth, from the pain. But now, with those people on our trail, I have no choice but to face my past." Outside, the distant wail of sirens and the relentless patter of rain provided a haunting soundtrack to our predicament. I realized that I stood at a crossroads. I could run further into the darkness with him, or I could seize this moment to reclaim my own truth, no matter how painful it might be. As the night deepened, I found myself wrestling with the decision. Should I continue this perilous journey with a man whose very identity was a lie, or should I break away and search for answers on my own? In that dimly lit warehouse, amid the echoes of our hurried breaths and the relentless storm outside, I made a silent vow. I would uncover the full truth about him, about the danger chasing us, and about the secrets that had woven our lives into this tangled web. Whether I chose to stay by his side or forge my own path, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. And as the sound of approaching footsteps, uncertain, foreboding, grew louder in the distance, I realized that our escape was only just beginning, and that the real journey into the heart of darkness was about to commence. The cold interior of the warehouse became our reluctant sanctuary as the storm outside raged on. In the dim light of a single flickering bulb, Ethan and I sat on a battered crate, the oppressive silence punctuated only by the distant echoes of approaching footsteps. My mind raced as I replayed everything I'd learned, his multiple identities, the threatening letters, the urgent confession that he'd built his entire life on lies. Ethan shifted uneasily, glancing toward a rusted door at the far end of the warehouse. "There's something you need to see," he said quietly, as if the words themselves were a confession. With measured steps, he led me to a locked metal cabinet tucked away in a shadowy corner. He produced a small set of tools and with deliberate precision picked the lock. Inside, arranged in neat piles, lay a trove of documents and electronic files. I could see additional passports, faded photos, and detailed logs, records of his various identities, the places he'd lived, and even dates that hinted at a timeline far more intricate than the simple man I thought I'd known. "Look at this," Ethan urged, handing me a file with a stamped emblem that I didn't recognize. I flipped through its pages slowly. It appeared to be a dossier detailing covert operations, complete with pseudonyms, code names, and a list of contacts. My pulse quickened as I realized that his past wasn't just about deception. It was about survival in a dangerous game. He took a deep breath. "I wasn't always running," he began, his voice wavering between regret and resignation. "There was a time when I was part of something much bigger, a network of operatives hired by people who operate in the shadows. I was a fixer, a man who could erase evidence and rewrite identities. But one day I made a mistake, one so massive that the people I once served couldn't let it go. They turned on me. I had to vanish, reinventing myself over and over to stay alive." The weight of his words sank in. I felt a mix of terror and pity. The man I had loved, the man I thought I knew, was a fugitive caught in a web of international secrets and deadly consequences. Every lie he had told was a carefully constructed facade, a necessary deception to protect not only himself, but perhaps even me. "Who are they?" I demanded, my voice barely a whisper. "Who's after you?" Ethan's eyes darkened, and for a moment, the bravado that had always masked his pain was gone. "I can't tell you everything," he said, hesitating. "But they're powerful, and they don't forgive." I was part of a secret organization, a clandestine unit that handled sensitive cases. I learned to leave one life behind and start anew, but no matter how many identities I adopted, my past was always there, waiting. Before I could press for more, a sharp sound of metal clanging from outside made us freeze. The footsteps that had haunted us earlier grew louder, now accompanied by muffled voices. Panic flared in my chest. "We have to move," Ethan said urgently, grabbing a duffel bag from beneath a nearby table. "They're here." Ethan's grip on the steering wheel tightened as he led us out of the warehouse through a side exit. We slipped into the night, blending with the darkness along back alleys and deserted streets. The sense of impending danger was overwhelming, and every turn of the road heightened my dread. As we drove through rain-soaked lanes, the tension in the car was palpable. I could barely catch my breath, my thoughts a jumble of questions. About Ethan, about the sinister organization that now hunted him, and most disturbingly, about my own role in his perilous past. On a quiet stretch of road, Ethan finally broke the silence. "I never meant to drag you into this," he said, voice heavy with remorse. "You deserve a life free of secrets and danger. I wish I could go back and change everything." I looked at him, conflicted emotions warring in my eyes. "I married you because I believed in who you were," I replied, voice shaking with both anger and sorrow. "Now I feel betrayed, not just by the lies but by the fact that I never truly knew you." His gaze fell, and for a long moment, the man who had always been so assured was reduced to a shadow of regret. "I know," he whispered, "and I'm so sorry." The car's radio suddenly erupted with a frantic news bulletin. Authorities report heightened activity in connection with an international fraud ring. Officials warn that dangerous individuals linked to the case may be on the move. The urgency in Ethan's voice increased. "They're getting closer. I have a safe house, a location where I can hide and hopefully figure out a plan, but we need to move now." The journey became a blur of hurried turns and evasive maneuvers, as if the very road were conspiring to keep us hidden. Every siren in the distance sent shockwaves through my heart. I realized that the life I thought I had was unraveling rapidly, and with it, the foundation of trust I had built with Ethan. After what felt like hours, we pulled up in front of a modest, nondescript building in an industrial area on the outskirts of the city. Ethan led me inside, a safe house that looked more like an abandoned storefront, with shuttered windows and peeling paint. Here, in the relative isolation of forgotten corridors, I felt a temporary reprieve from the relentless pursuit. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. A single lamp cast long shadows on the walls, and the room was filled with the quiet hum of a portable heater. Ethan set down the duffel bag and turned to face me, his expression weary. "This is where we'll stay for a while," he said, his tone resigned. "I know it's not much, but it's secure, at least for now." I sank into a creaky chair, still trying to process the events of the last few hours. My thoughts drifted back to all the unanswered questions. Who exactly were these dangerous people? What had I unwittingly become a part of? And most pressing of all, what would become of us now? Ethan's eyes met mine, and in that moment, the fear and uncertainty in his gaze resonated with my own inner turmoil. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," he said softly, "but I need you to understand that my life is far more complicated than you ever imagined. I was forced into this double life, and I've been running for so long that I lost myself along the way." I nodded slowly, though the sting of betrayal still burned in my chest. "I need time," I said, my voice heavy with resignation. "Time to process all of this. I need to know who you are, really." He hesitated, then reached into his bag and pulled out a small, worn journal. "This is my truth," he said, handing it to me. "Everything. The identities, the mistakes, the people I've tried to leave behind. It's all here. Read it if you want to understand, but know that every word comes with a cost." With trembling hands, I accepted the journal. Its pages were filled with handwritten entries detailing a life of constant reinvention, a ledger of identities carefully constructed and then abandoned. Each entry painted a picture of a man who had lived on the edge, forced to erase parts of himself time and again. As I read, my heart ached with empathy and horror in equal measure. But as the night deepened, a sudden commotion outside shattered the fragile calm. The sound of shattering glass and urgent voices signaled that our temporary refuge had been compromised. "They've found us!" Ethan hissed, his eyes wide with fear. "We need to go, now!" Without a second thought, he rushed to the door and peered through the grimy window. In the distance, I could see figures moving quickly, their intentions unmistakable. The life we had known was crumbling, and the real journey into darkness was about to begin. I grabbed the journal and followed Ethan into the back exit. As we emerged into the cold, rainy night, I knew that my quest for truth and my fight for survival had only just begun. The alliance between us, born of love, betrayal, and necessity, would soon be tested in ways I could never have imagined. In that uncertain moment, as we disappeared into the labyrinth of rain-soaked streets, I vowed silently, I would uncover every secret of his past, no matter the cost. Even if it meant confronting my own shattered illusions and facing a future where nothing was as it seemed. The rain had barely let up when we finally lost the immediate threat. Ethan and I ducked into an even darker side street, the adrenaline slowly ebbing from our veins as the echoes of pursuing footsteps faded into the night. In the damp quiet, we paused under the meager shelter of a rundown awning, our chests still heaving with exertion and fear. I clutched the worn journal to my chest, its pages heavy with the weight of a life I was only beginning to comprehend. Ethan's eyes, usually so guarded and conflicted, now shone with determination. "We can't run forever," he said, his voice low and resolute. "The truth has been hidden in these pages for too long. It's time to confront it." I hesitated. Every instinct screamed to keep fleeing, to leave this tangled web of lies behind. But the journal, his truth, beckoned me with the promise of answers. "Who are they?" I demanded, my voice rough with desperation. "Who is chasing us, and why?" Ethan took a deep breath and began. "They're the remnants of the organization I once served. My past wasn't just a series of false identities. It was a career, a life of covert operations. I was a fixer, someone who could create a new identity out of nothing. But I made a mistake. A mistake so monumental that the people who employed me could not forgive it. They turned on me, and now they're hunting down every trace of who I was." He paused, eyes searching mine for understanding. "They believe that if I resurface, I can expose secrets that would destroy them. And if that happens, if I reveal everything, it won't just be me who pays. You too will be caught in the crossfire." My mind reeled. The safe house, our desperate escape, the threatening letters, all of it now formed a clearer, more terrifying picture. I had married a man who had lived on the razor's edge of deception, and now his past was colliding with our future in a way I couldn't have imagined. "Ethan," I whispered, "I need to know everything. No more half-truths." He nodded, and for what felt like an eternity, he began to speak. About the secret network he had once been part of, the covert missions that required him to adopt new identities, and the catastrophic error that had forced him to abandon his old life entirely. As his story unfolded in the dim light beneath the awning, the pieces began to click into place. The forged passports, the multiple names, all were tools he had used to hide his true self from a past that had grown too dangerous to face. And now, with our cover blown and the organization closing in, there was no going back. A tense silence followed Ethan's confession. I sat there, my mind churning, when my phone buzzed unexpectedly. It was a message from an unknown number. "We know what you've seen. Meet us at the old pier if you want answers." I showed it to Ethan. His face drained of color as he read the message, and he muttered, "They found a way to reach us." His eyes darted around as if expecting shadows to leap out at any moment. "Do we have a choice?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. He hesitated before replying, "It might be our only chance to end this, once and for all." Reluctantly, we decided to go. The drive to the old pier was fraught with uncertainty. The streets were empty, and the rain seemed to fall in a haunting cadence, as though narrating the prelude to an inevitable reckoning. I clutched the journal and my phone as if they were lifelines. Every mile brought us closer to a moment that could either clarify the murk of our predicament or plunge us into deeper danger. At the pier, fog mingled with the sea mist, and the skeletal outlines of abandoned boats jutted out of the dark water. We parked the car behind a row of rusted shipping containers and approached on foot, our footsteps echoing on the wet wooden planks. The unknown numbers message had promised answers, but what awaited us was far more than either of us expected. A group of figures, clad in dark clothing and faces obscured by hoods, emerged from the shadows. Their leader, a tall woman with a voice both calm and commanding, stepped forward. "Ethan, we have been waiting for you," she said. Her eyes, glinting with a mixture of stern resolve and pity, met his. "And you, Sadie, we know your husband's secrets now. But there is more you need to understand." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Who are you?" I demanded, stepping forward despite my fear. "We are the custodians," the woman replied. "We are the remnants of an organization that decades ago sought to protect the truth behind every false identity, every lie, every hidden past. Ethan, you were one of us, a fixer, yes, but also a guardian of secrets. Your mistake, as you call it, was not a failure, but a necessary sacrifice. You were tasked with a mission that required you to become someone else, to bury your true self to protect a greater good." Ethan's eyes widened with shock and sorrow. I don't remember any of this," he stammered. The custodian continued. "Your memory was altered, your life rewritten. You were given a new identity to shield you from the dangers of the real world, a world where information is the most powerful weapon. And now, that world has caught up with you. But there is a twist in this tale that even you have not foreseen." The leader's gaze shifted to me. "Sadie, you are not just a bystander in this story. You were chosen, like Ethan, to receive the truth. The journal in his possession, the documents you've seen, are part of a coded message meant for someone with a resilient spirit. Your role is greater than you know." I felt as if the ground beneath me had shifted. Everything, the lies, the danger, the revelations, it was all part of a grand design I had never imagined. "What do you mean?" I asked, voice trembling. She smiled sadly. "Your birth, your life, it was all orchestrated by a secret society known as the Keepers of the Veil. They believe that those who endure profound deception and betrayal, who count every hardship like the number 99 in your diary, are destined to unlock the truth of their existence and lead others out of darkness." Ethan and I exchanged glances, stunned into silence. The custodian's words were like fragments of a long-forgotten dream, a truth that redefined everything. So, everything I've known, every lie, was to protect me? And now, because of my mistakes, I'm to lead a rebellion of truth? Ethan asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Not a rebellion," the woman corrected gently. "A revelation. A chance to mend the fractures of a world built on falsehoods. You both have been living in the shadows of secrets. It is time to step into the light." At that moment, the sound of sirens began to wail in the distance. The custodian's leader's face grew grave. "Time is short. We have arranged for a secure extraction. You must come with us now, or the forces that hunt you will catch up. And not just Ethan, but you as well." A maelstrom of emotions churned within me. All my life, I had clung to the familiar pain of betrayal and deception. Now, this revelation promised a purpose greater than the heartache I'd endured. I looked into Ethan's eyes, those same eyes that had once held so many lies and now shimmered with a newfound clarity. "I'm with you," I said softly, the decision made in a single, resolute moment. Ethan nodded, his expression a blend of relief and resolve. "Then let's end this nightmare," he murmured. Under the guidance of the custodians, we were whisked away in a black van that seemed to dissolve into the night. Inside, the atmosphere was somber, but focused. I was given a seat next to a kind-eyed man who introduced himself as Gabriel, a fellow custodian who explained that the time had come for us to face our past and forge a new future together. As the van sped through the rain-soaked streets toward a hidden safe zone, I reread the journal's entries, now imbued with a sense of destiny rather than despair. Every 99 was no longer a tally of failures, but a marker on the path to revelation, a code that had been meant for me all along. Gabriel explained that the Keepers of the Veil had been disbanded years ago, their mission relegated to whispers and hidden archives. Yet their legacy lived on in those who had been touched by their ideals. "You both have the potential to bring light into a world marred by deceit," he said, his tone gentle but insistent. "Your journey is far from over. In fact, it is only beginning." In the secure compound, a place filled with quiet libraries, tech-equipped strategy rooms, and even an infirmary for the wounded souls who had escaped their past, the custodians gathered to plan the next steps. It became clear that Ethan's mistake had been engineered to test his limits, to see if he could bear the burden of truth. And now, with both of us united, a larger mission beckoned: to expose the corruption that had been hidden behind layers of manufactured identities, and to help those who, like us, had been lost in the maze of lies. That night, after hours of planning and quiet conversations with others who had similarly painful histories, I found a moment alone. Sitting in a modest room with a single window looking out over a moonlit courtyard, I began to write, not in a diary of disappointments, but in a journal of hope. I wrote about betrayal, yes, but also about the resilience that had carried me through the darkest hours. I vowed that from this night forward, every scar, every 99 would serve as a beacon for others seeking the truth. Weeks turned into months as Ethan and I trained, planned, and slowly unraveled the intricate network of corruption that had once ensnared him. I embraced my role, not as the abandoned wife, but as a vital part of a movement destined to challenge the old order. Together, with the custodians and a growing number of those disillusioned by the hidden machinations of power, we began to rebuild a world where truth was cherished and every identity was honored for its genuine worth. One crisp morning, as I stood on the edge of a balcony overlooking a city waking to a new dawn, I reflected on the winding path that had brought me here. The betrayal, the flight, the revelations, it had all been necessary. I was no longer defined by a single lie, nor was I confined by the pain of past deceptions. Instead, I had learned that every hidden truth, every scar, could be transformed into a source of strength. A gentle knock on the door signaled the arrival of Ethan. He smiled, a genuine, hopeful smile that spoke of redemption and the promise of new beginnings. "Ready?" he asked softly. I nodded, stepping away from the balcony. Outside, in the light of the new day, I realized that my journey was far from over. It had only just begun. The unexpected truths had rewritten my destiny, and though challenges lay ahead, I was determined to lead a life guided by authenticity, compassion, and the unyielding courage to face the unknown. In that final, serene moment, as I walked hand in hand with Ethan toward a future brimming with possibility, I understood that the darkness we had once feared had given way to a brilliant new dawn. A dawn where every secret was a stepping stone, and every scar a testament to survival.